In the beginning, Yah created the heavens, earth, and all within, creating man bearing his own image to dwell in a world untouched by sin. Within this paradise, known as the Garden of Eden, everything was in perfect harmony and good in Yah's eyes. From the dust of the ground, Yah formed Adam, breathing into his lungs the breath of life. Now seeing Adam's loneliness, Yah caused a deep slumber to fall upon him, taking from his side a rib to create a companion. From this rib Yah crafted a woman, a helpmate named Eve, whose heart and spirit would complete Adam. When Adam awoke and beheld her, he saw a part of himself, yet something uniquely different. He would call her Eve, for she would become the mother of all who would live. Together they were to bless, multiply, and fill the earth. Living in the garden, every need was met. However, within the garden stood a tree that they were told never to touch, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. While tending the garden, the serpent would approach Eve, telling her to eat of the fruit, and it would make her just like Yah, knowing good and evil. Eve would take a bite, losing her innocence. She then offered it to Adam, who would also eat, sealing humanity's fate forever. As they ate, their eyes were open, but not to the wisdom they expected. Knowing they transgressed, Adam and Eve hid among the trees as Yah walked through the garden. Yah called out to Adam, seeking not only to confront, but to remind them of the bond he had with him. Adam, filled with fear, admitted his shame, blaming the woman, and Eve blamed the serpent. Yah cast Adam and Eve out of the garden, a painful separation from the life they had known. An angel guarded the entrance with a flaming sword, ensuring they could not return to eat from the tree of life. Clutching their garments that Yah fashioned for them nervously, they looked onward. They would face a harsh world beyond the garden's beauty, yet Yah's love endured, guiding them as they stepped into a life changed by sin. Each day they remembered the peace they once had. Adam tilled the hard soil, and Eve felt the pains of childbirth. Yet through this pain came a blessing. Eve bore a son, naming him Cain. Later she bore another son, Abel, and her heart was filled, for these children were a new beginning, a sign of Yah's mercy and love. Cain grew to be a tiller of the soil, and Abel a keeper of the sheep. As they grew, each sought to honor Yah with offerings from their labor. Abel brought the finest of his flock, an offering that Yah accepted with favor. But Cain's sacrifice, given without the same heart, was not honored, leading to bitterness and resentment for Cain. See, Cain was going through the motions, but did not truly honor Yah. One day, Cain confronted Abel, roaring with anger. Abel urged his brother to seek and trust Yah, but Cain's heart was already enraged. In a blind fury, Cain struck Abel, shedding the first innocent blood upon earth. Abel's blood cried unto Yah. Yah called out to Cain, questioning him about Abel. Defiant yet fearful, Cain simply replied, "Am I my brother's keeper?" But Yah revealed that Abel's blood cried unto him. In that moment, Yah pronounced a curse upon Cain, marking him for his crime, a wandering soul without peace. Cain was now condemned to a life of wandering. The ground will resist his labor, a constant reminder of the life he had taken. In the land of Nod, east of Eden, Cain began anew, building a city named after his son, Enoch, with the hopes of starting his own legacy. Generations began, but Cain's descendants bore a legacy of turmoil and unrest. Still, Yah's promises remained, stretching forward through the lineages of Adam and Eve. Yah remembered Adam and Eve in their sorrow, causing Eve to bear Adam another son, whom she named Seth. Adam, much older now, talked with Seth. He spoke to him of the garden they had lost, the lessons they had learned after leaving, and the importance of obeying Yah. Meanwhile, Cain's descendants spread across the land. They turned their hearts away from Yah, crafting idols from stone and wood, indulging in pursuits of power and wealth. Yet through Seth, the knowledge of Yah endured. His lineage walked upright, calling upon Yah's name, teaching their children to honor him, and preserving hope in a world darkened by sin. And so the earth became divided, those who followed the way of Yah and those who followed their own desires. The descendants of Seth stood as a light in the darkness, but the shadow of sin continued to spread. Beyond his mercy, Yah withheld judgment, giving humanity time to turn back to him. The lineage of Seth would flourish in righteousness as a beacon of light in a world increasingly consumed by darkness. They called upon the name of Yah, passing down his teachings from one generation to the next. Among them was Enoch, Seth's son, who led his people according to his father's ways. Yet even among Seth's lineage, hearts began to grow cold. During the days of Enoch, the influence of Cain's children crept into their lives. The pull of wealth, power, and false gods enticed some to turn away from Yah. This marked the beginning of a compromise, a subtle yet devastating shift in the hearts of men. The descendants of Cain would fill the earth with their wicked ways. Their hearts hardened against Yah, and they created gods of their own imaginations and bowed down to these idols that would demand blood sacrifice from their own kin. Violence and corruption spread like wildfire, consuming their cities and darkening the hearts of all the people. The weight of their sin and the cries of the innocent reached Yah's ears. Yet not all would be swayed by Cain. A remnant of Seth's lineage remained faithful to Yah, clinging to his word and walking to his ways. These faithful ones became a testimony of Yah's patience and mercy, remaining a light shining in the growing darkness over the earth. Yah saw the continued growing corruption and was grieved by the wickedness of mankind. He decided to send warnings to those upon the earth. Yah spoke to the righteous, warning them to remain steadfast amid the darkness. Through his word, he offered hope to those who would hold fast in his ways, even as the world spiraled into rebellion. Humanity continued to forsake Yah. Enoch saw this tragedy and felt the anguish of humanity's rebellion, knowing the path would only lead to sorrow. Yah, angered by the people's abomination, brought his judgments upon them. He caused the waters of the river Gishon to swell, rising and sweeping over a third of the land. Many lives were lost, but even in this devastation, the hearts of men remained unchanged. They clung strongly unto their false gods. Following the flood, a great famine came upon the land. The seeds planted in the ground yielded only thorns and thistles. Food became scarce, and the people suffered. Yet in their suffering, they refused to turn to Yah. Instead, they hardened their hearts even further, refusing to see his hand in their plight and growing in rebellion further from Yah. Enoch eventually fathered a son named Canaan. As Canaan grew, he witnessed the people's continued descent into idolatry. Yet Canaan's heart sought Yah's wisdom. Canaan grew into a man of great wisdom and knowledge. He reigned over the sons of men, guiding them with the insights Yah had granted him. In his heart, Canaan knew that Yah would eventually judge the people for their continued sins. Through visions, Yah told him of a great flood that would one day cleanse the earth of its wickedness. In response, Canaan began to prepare, carving warnings of this knowledge. Canaan would place these tablets he had carved into a cave, his treasure house, safeguarding the knowledge for all those who would seek it. Canaan became the father of many sons and daughters, and as his family grew, he continued to live according to Yah's ways, striving to lead by example for everyone around him. However, for many around him, Yah's voice had grown faint and was replaced by whispers of idols and false gods. In time, Lamech, a descendant of Cain, entered Canaan's lineage by marriage, uniting the lines of Cain and Seth. This marriage symbolized a crossroads, a merging of paths. Adah, Lamech's wife, bore him two sons, Jabal and Jubal, who grew up amidst the generation that had forgotten Yah. The men had begun giving their wives a drink that would prevent childbirth, so their beauty would remain. Lamech's second wife, Zillah, also participated in this practice. Zillah, though older and past childbearing age, had her womb opened up by Yah. She gave birth to a son named Tubal-Cain, saying, "After I had withered away, I received him from the Almighty Yah." Her joy continued as she later bore a daughter named Nama, meaning pleasure and delight, for she saw her children as a sign of Yah's favor. Lamech, now aged, went hunting with his son Tubal-Cain. Mistaking a distant figure for an animal, Tubal-Cain urged his father to shoot. Lamech shot his arrow, only to discover he had struck down his own grandfather, Cain. In his rage and anguish, Lamech struck Tubal-Cain, his son, and his lifeless body fell to the ground. Overcome with grief, Lamech realized the magnitude of his actions. His wives, upon learning what had happened, blamed him for the deaths of both Cain and Tubal-Cain. They refused to speak to him and resented him deeply. Overcome with regret, Lamech pleaded with his wives to listen. He explained that his eyes had grown weak and that he did not mean to take their lives. Eventually they listened, yet their union would bear no more children. Enoch was a man of deep faith. He lived for 65 years before the birth of his son Methuselah. From that moment on, Enoch walked closely with Yah, fully dedicating his life to Yah's guidance and despising the wicked ways of those around him. Enoch's soul was consumed by Yah's teaching, filled with knowledge and understanding. He secluded himself to deepen his connection with the Creator. While amidst in prayer, an angel from Yah appeared, calling him to action. The angel instructed Enoch to leave his cave and teach the people. With a heart full of Yah's wisdom, Enoch gathered the sons of men, proclaiming that anyone who desired to walk in Yah's ways should come and listen. Moved by his wisdom, many came to hear him, bowing before him and accepting his teachings. Yah's spirit filled Enoch, allowing him to teach the people his ways. Word of Enoch's wisdom spread, reaching the ears of kings, princes, and judges across the land. They would travel from afar to hear his teachings, bowing before him and seeking his leadership. Enoch, guided by Yah's will, agreed to reign over them as a sovereign king. His wisdom and justice brought peace to the land, and he was able to teach the people Yah's laws. Enoch ruled for 243 years, leading his people in righteousness. He walked with Yah daily, and through his justice, he transformed the lives of many. During Enoch's reign, he was blessed with 3 sons, Methuselah, Elisha, and Mucha, and 2 daughters, Milah and Amah. His family grew as he guided his people, guiding them in wisdom he received from Yah. After many years, Adam, the first man, passed away at the age of 930. Enoch, along with Adam's son Seth and Methuselah, buried Adam with great reverence, honoring him as the father of all humankind. People from all corners came to mourn Adam. The sorrow was deep, and their weeping became a custom that continued for generations. Adam's death marked a turning point, as his passing reminded all of Yah's warning that death was a consequence of sin. Yet as Adam's legacy faded, so did the obedience of many, and rebellion began to once again stain the earth. Not long after, people began turning against Yah, fashioning idols and gods to bow down to. Enoch felt Yah's calling him once more to withdraw from the people. Enoch secluded himself to focus on prayer and devotion. Although he kept his distance, Enoch continued to guide his people as well. Every 3rd day he would appear before them to teach Yah's ways. Over the years, Enoch's presence became less frequent, yet each appearance carried an even greater impact. Eventually he appeared only once a year, and the people were amazed at his wisdom. People revered Enoch so deeply that many feared to approach him, a sense of divinity surrounding him that even kings lowered their gaze and would not stare in his face. Moved by the energy that radiated from his presence, the people saw him as a reflection of Yah's will. One day, Enoch gathered the people one last time, preparing to leave them with a final message. Yah sent a word to Enoch through an angel, calling him to ascend into heaven. With words filled with love, Enoch encouraged the people to stay true to Yah's ways, to live in righteousness, and to seek Yah continuously. Suddenly a bright light filled the sky, and from the heavens descended a horse. The people were awestruck, realizing this was a divine moment ordained by Yah. Enoch calmly approached the divine horse, and then turned to the people, encouraging anyone who wished to walk with him one final time to join him. Hundreds joined him, determined to walk beside their beloved teacher. For 6 days the people followed, moving further away from their homes and deeper into the wilderness. On the 7th day, Enoch knew his time had come. He was lifted into the heavens, vanishing from their sight. The people gazed upward, filled with sorrow and amazement, as they watched their beloved leader leave them. In the aftermath of Enoch's ascension, the people searched for any sign of him, but only found the snow-covered ground. Realizing Yah had taken Enoch, they mourned deeply, vowing to uphold his teachings. After Enoch's miraculous ascent into heaven, the kings of the earth gathered with great respect to appoint his son, Methuselah, as their ruler. They placed a crown upon his head, entrusting him to continue his father's legacy. Methuselah led the people with unwavering faith, just as his father Enoch had taught him. He spoke to crowds of Yah's expectations, encouraging them to follow the Creator. But as the years passed, the people turned cold, their false idols once again gripping their hearts. Violence, corruption, and sin spread like a plague throughout the land, and those who once followed Yah's path became envious, deceitful, and rebellious. Methuselah's warnings fell upon deaf ears, and the people became entrenched in wickedness. Yah's anger burned against humanity's rebellion, even though he had blessed the earth and allowed everyone to be fruitful. To warn them, he cursed the ground again, so that when they planted their crops, only thorns and thistles sprouted. The earth refused to yield its bounty, and a great famine spread across the land. Despite their suffering, the people continued in their wickedness. Yah's patience was immense, but the people were too prideful. Yet in the face of widespread corruption, Methuselah remained faithful. He never swayed from Yah's path. He continued to preach in righteousness, his heart filled with sorrow, yet he remained hopeful. Yah, in his mercy, allowed the righteous to pass from this life, sparing them from the devastation that would lay ahead. Seth, the son of Adam, was among those who departed in peace. After living for 912 years, Seth took his final breath. As years passed, Lamech, Methuselah's son, sought a wife from his own kin. He married Usma, the daughter of Elisha, from the line of Enoch. The union brought hope as they desired to raise children who would walk in the ways of Yah. Eventually, Usma bore a son, and Methuselah called him Noah, meaning rest. Lamech too gave his son a name, calling him Menachem, a comforter, as he hoped Noah would ease the suffering brought on by humanity's rebellion. As Noah grew, he displayed remarkable wisdom and integrity. Methuselah and Lamech, seeing this, instructed him in Yah's ways, and Noah eagerly absorbed their teachings. From a young age, Noah understood he was supposed to be set apart, a light in the midst of increasing darkness. As Noah grew into adulthood, humanity fell further from Yah's expectations. The people mocked Noah's devotion to Yah. It was a time when each person did what was right in their own eyes, and Noah's faith made him an outsider among men. Methuselah's heart ached for the people. He continued to preach, though few would listen. His words were filled with urgency, warning them that Yah's patience was not infinite. Yet each plea fell upon deaf ears. As the famine continued, Methuselah reminded the people that these were warnings from their Creator. The ground yielded only thorns, and the rivers ran shallow, yet people failed to see Yah's hand in it. As time passed, the people's wickedness deepened. They began mixing animals of different kinds, violating Yah's natural order. They believed that this was a show of their own power, bending Yah's creations to their will. These creations furthered their belief that they were equal to Yah. Yah saw their corruption and abominations and grieved. The cries of the innocents rose to him, and he felt sorrow for humanity's descent into darkness. The people grew further and further from Yah, strengthening their resolve with their false idols and their own creations. And so, the earth continued to grow in corruption, violence, and idolatry, with more and more people bowing to a variety of fake idols and gods. These idols and gods incited the lust of all their hearts and flesh. Despite all this around him, though, Noah continued to walk in the ways of Yah, setting himself apart in faithfulness. Methuselah and Lamech, seeing Noah's unwavering heart, felt a glimmer of hope. They encouraged him, reminding him of Yah's promise. Yah's spirit moved upon Noah, filling him with wisdom beyond his years. He began to sense Yah's sorrow over the earth. As the years passed, people grew even more audacious in their defiance. Judges and rulers took whatever they desired, claiming wives by force and encouraging others to do the same. Violence, greed, and lust consumed the cities, and the people no longer recognized Yah's authority whatsoever. As Noah entered adulthood, the only other person who followed Yah was his grandfather, Methuselah. All others who had followed the path of Yah had passed away, and the earth bore the weight of humanity's defiance. As violence and corruption continued to plague its lands, one day Yah spoke to Noah and Methuselah, saying, "Speak to the people. Tell them to turn from their wicked ways. I'll give them 120 years. If they will repent and turn back to me, I will hold back my hand from them." Yet with each passing day, the people continued to laugh and scoff at their words, mocking both Yah and them. Noah remained steadfast, though he chose not to bring children into the world. Yah assured him, though, saying, "Take a wife, Noah, for I have chosen you to preserve life upon this earth." In faith, Noah took Naamah, the daughter of Enoch, as his wife, trusting in Yah's wisdom. Noah received 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Each child was a gift, a sign that Yah intended life to continue despite his coming judgment. Noah and Methuselah raised these children in Yah's ways, teaching them to walk in righteousness. At last, Yah spoke to Noah, saying, "The end of all flesh has come before me. I shall destroy the earth. Build an ark and prepare a place for refuge." Yah provided detailed instructions for the ark's size and structure. After Methuselah's passing, Yah spoke directly to Noah, instructing him to gather his household and enter the ark. Yah promised to bring forth every creature of the earth, each animal, beast, and bird to surround the ark. This was a moment Noah had long prepared for. A time of divine judgment was finally here. Following Yah's command, Noah seated himself by the ark's door. The moment Noah did this, animals started to come out of nowhere, all in orderly pairs. Each would present itself before him. Those that bowed in reverence before Noah were welcome and entrusted to Noah's son to bring inside. But those who did not crouch were left behind, remaining upon the earth. As the chosen few entered the ark, a great magnitude of creatures encircled it, waiting in patient stillness. Among the animals, however, was a lioness who came with her 2 cubs. To Noah's amazement, the cubs struck out at their mother, sending her back as they moved forward to bow before him. Noah understood that this was a sign from Yah, and so it continued. One by one, creatures from every corner of the earth entered the ark. They came in pairs, yet from the clean animals and the clean birds, Noah brought 7 pairs, as Yah commanded him. As the ark stood ready, a great multitude of creatures encircled it, waiting in stillness. There was a weight in the air, an unspoken anticipation of what was yet to come. On the 7th day, Yah demonstrated his power. The earth shook, the sun dimmed, and the foundations of the world rumbled. Lightning split the sky with booming thunder and a trembling ground. The thunder roared as lightning lit the sky, yet the people still did not turn from their evil. They clung to their sins, choosing pride over repentance. As the earth prepared to receive the flood of judgment, they placed their hopes in gods of imagination. On the 7th day, the heavens unleashed their fury. The rain poured without end, covering the entirety of the earth. Streams would rise and the ground became a swamp, and mankind felt the weight of Yah's wrath. As the waters began to consume the land, Noah and his family entered the ark, carrying Yah's solemn words in their heart. Yah would seal the door behind them, ensuring no one could enter. As the waters surged, men fought against the rising tide. The waters grew powerful and merciless, sweeping away everyone in their path. Those outside of the ark came to realize the gravity of their rebellion. Desperation would grip the hearts of all those who remained. They would rush to the ark, crying out for salvation. They begged and pleaded Noah to open the door, but Noah could only watch and listen, for Yah's decision was final, and the door remained sealed. The people cried out, vowing to repent if Yah spared them, but their promises were hollow, born of fear rather than genuine faith. Noah, secure in the ark, understood that Yah's decree was set. In their desperation, they attempted to break in, but Yah sent the wild beast around the ark to protect it. The creatures drove the crowd away, making it clear that no human hand could force open the door that Yah himself had sealed. No matter their attempts, the people could not enter the ark. The rain persisted day and night until the waters covered even the tallest trees and the highest mountains. The ark was lifted by the flood waters, and it began to float, carrying Noah and his family above the destruction below. Within the ark, the animals sensed the turmoil outside and grew anxious. Noah and his family moved through the ark, offering comfort where they could, understanding that even in the midst of this judgment, Yah had preserved their lives. And so, the ark was tossed upon the waves as if it was no more than driftwood. Fear gripped the hearts of all those within, for they could feel the full force of Yah's mighty flood. Yet they remained praying, steadfast and trusting in Yah's promise of deliverance, knowing that He would sustain them throughout the entirety of this storm. In the midst of their fear, Noah would turn to Yah in prayer, pouring out his heart unto Him. He called upon Yah's mercy, asking for the strength to endure through the turmoil surrounding them. As the ark creaked and swayed, Noah's faith remained unshaken, his spirit bound to the promise Yah had made to preserve him and his family. After countless days, Yah heard the cries of Noah and his family. He remembered his promise and began to still the waters. The mighty torrent ceased and the roaring storm quieted. Yah's compassion broke through the judgment, and a hope of a new beginning arose within the ark. Yah sent a great wind upon the earth, and the waters began to withdraw, pulling back from the land. After 40 days and nights of constant rain, light finally began to break through the clouds. Yah's mercy was unfolding, revealing His promise to preserve life amidst all of the flooding. And at last, everyone was able to rejoice and be happy. The ark had finally found a place to rest on the mountains of Ariad. For months they had drifted uncertain and confined within, but now Yah's plan was revealing itself with each passing day. Hope once again grew within their hearts as they sensed the earth slowly emerging from the waters. The waters had finally receded, and Yah's voice came unto Noah, instructing him and his family to leave the ark. The door creaked open, revealing the land washed clean and ready for a new beginning. With reverence, Noah's family stepped out, setting foot on a world touched by Yah's mercy. Their hearts filled with gratitude as they felt the solid earth beneath their feet once more. Noah's time on the ark must have felt like years. However, after months of waiting, Yah instructed Noah and his family to leave the ark. As they stepped onto dry land, they felt the gratitude for Yah's mercy. However, Ham, who had secretly stolen the garments made for Adam, kept them hidden. Yah blessed Noah's family, commanding them to multiply and fill the earth. The son of Ham fathered Nimrod in his old age, and he loved him dearly. Cush gave Nimrod the same garments that were made for Adam, which had been passed down in secrecy by his father. At 20, Nimrod wore the garments, gaining strength and becoming a mighty hunter, blessed with divine power by Yah. Wearing the garments, Nimrod became a great warrior, leading his brethren to victory against their enemies. Yah would deliver his foes into his hands, and Nimrod gained mighty fame. As his victories grew, his people crowned him king, and he established order across the lands. Nimrod built a vast kingdom, founding the city of Shinar, where he reigned securely. Nations would bring him tribute, and his fame spread more. He ruled all the sons of Noah, becoming the most powerful man on earth, yet his heart turned away from Yah. Nimrod made idols of wood and stone, leading people into rebellion against Yah. His son Mardon followed in his wickedness, committing acts so vile that a saying arose, "From the wicked goes forth wickedness." This ancient proverb lives on today as, "An apple doesn't fall far from the tree." Amid this darkness, Terah, a prince in Nimrod's kingdom, fathered Abram, a child destined to bring forth light. On the night that Abram was born, Terah hosted a celebration for Nimrod's wise men and conjurers. As they left, they saw a massive star rise from the east, swallowing 4 others. Interpreting this sign, they predicted Adam's lineage would conquer the king and inherit the earth. Terrified by the celestial sign, Nimrod's wise men convened and decided to inform the king. They warned Nimrod of Abram's future dominance and suggested killing the child before he grew powerful. Nimrod agreed with them and summoned Terah, demanding the boy in exchange for riches. Terah recognized the gravity of Nimrod's demand and presented a parable unto his king instead. He questioned Nimrod's wisdom in trading a prized horse for riches, likening it to the folly of sacrificing his only son for silver and gold. Nimrod, though angered, allowed Terah 3 days to consider the demand, still unaware of Terah's cunning plan. Faced with the king's looming ultimatum, Terah acted swiftly. He would replace Abram with a newborn child of a servant, presenting the infant to Nimrod. Unaware of this deception, Nimrod carried out the execution, unknowingly sparing the future of Yah's chosen servant. To protect Abram, Terah secretly hid him in a cave with his mother and a nurse. He would provide them provisions monthly, ensuring they could survive. For 10 years, Abram grew in this cave under the watchful eyes of Yah. Meanwhile, Nimrod and his court believed Abram had been killed. Haran, Abram's oldest brother, married at the age of 39 and fathered Lot, Milcah, and Sarai by the age of 42. This marked the 10th year of Abram's life, and by then, Abram and his mother had left the cave. Since Nimrod and his people had forgotten the events that surrounded his birth, Abram decided to go seek wisdom from Noah and Shem. He stayed with them for 39 years. Ever since the tender age of 3, Abram was taught to walk in the ways of Yah. Even as humanity rebelled, worshipping idols of wood and stone, only Noah's household remained faithful to Yah amidst the widespread corruption. Terah, Abram's father, crafted 12 idols, one of each for the month of the year, offering sacrifices to them regularly. This idolatry reflected a generation steeped in wickedness, forsaking Yah for lifeless gods. Yet Yah's truth remained alive in Noah's teachings. Observing creation, Abram questioned the sun and the moon. As he prayed to each, he saw their limits and realized they were Yah's creations, not deities of their own kind. Abram's heart turned fully to Yah as he rejected the false gods that humanity continued to worship. Under Nimrod's reign, princes conspired to build a tower reaching the heavens, aiming to dominate the world around them. They would unify 600,000 men and settle in the land of Shinar, where they would begin construction. Their goal was to defy Yah, worship false gods, and ascend into the heavens. The builders were divided into 3 groups: those who wanted to fight Yah, those who wanted to replace him with their idols, and those who simply wanted to smite the heavens. Their pride blinded them as they labored tirelessly, mourning over broken bricks but ignoring the human lives that were lost in this dangerous construction. Yah observed their rebellion and sent 70 angels to confuse their language. Chaos erupted as builders misunderstood each other, throwing bricks in frustration. Their project collapsed into violence, and the once united people were turned against one another. Yah judged these builders. Some were killed by their own neighbors, and many were forced to scatter across the earth. The unfinished tower was partially swallowed by the earth, partially burned, and a third of it still stands as a warning to others. The site became known as Babel, the place where Yah confounded the language of the earth. Thousands died during the construction, and the remaining people abandoned the project, scattering worldwide. This incomplete tower remains a testament to human pride and folly. Because of the Tower of Babel, Yah scattered humanity across the earth, dividing their languages and families. They built cities and named them after themselves or notable events. Japheth's descendants spread across Europe and Asia, while Ham's descendants settled in Africa and Canaan. Ham's descendants established cities, including Sodom, Gomorrah, and the land of Seir. From Pathros to Kasla, the Philistines emerged, becoming a significant force in Canaan. This legacy shaped the conflicts and cultures of the region for the future generations. Shem's descendants, including Elam, Asher, and Aram, founded key cities such as Nineveh and Uz. These settlements became centers of early civilization, with Shem's lineage preserving the knowledge of Yah amidst widespread idolatry and rebellion. As nations spread, they established governments to maintain order in these cities. These systems reflected humanity's attempt to create stability after Yah's judgment at Babel. Yet idolatry and pride continued to define their ways. Nimrod established 4 cities in Shinar: Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh. Despite his downfall at the tower, he continued in rebellion, teaching wickedness to humanity. His son Mardon continued to exceed him in evil, leading people deeper into sin. Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, waged war against the cities of Ham's descendants, subduing them. For 12 years they paid him tribute, living under his dominion. Meanwhile, Nahor, Abram's grandfather, passed away, marking another shift in their lineage journey. At the age of 50, Abram returned to Terah's house and found the 12 idols. Outraged, he declared their destruction within 3 days. Questioning Terah about Yah, Abram exposed the futility of worshiping wood and stone, challenging his father's misguided faith in them. Mocking the idols, Abram placed food before them. He would then smash the idols with a hatchet, leaving it in the hand of the largest statue. When confronted by Terah, Abram cleverly blamed the destruction on the great God who held the hatchet. Terah, enraged at his son, asked how could this be possible if the statue is only wood, proving his own absurdity. Terah immediately went to inform Nimrod, who angrily summoned Abram before him. Abram denounced idolatry, calling it foolish, and warned the king of Yah's judgment, citing the flood as proof of Yah's power. Abram would urge Nimrod to turn back to Yah, declaring that serving lifeless idols would bring ruin upon him and his kingdom. In Nimrod's court, in front of everyone, Abram fearlessly proclaimed Yah's sovereignty, warning of judgment for the king's wickedness. He called upon Yah, asking him to see the sins of the earth and bring judgment. Abram's unwavering faith in Yah set the stage for his destiny as the patriarch of righteousness, and to be known as the friend of Yah. Abram's bold actions and words spoken before Nimrod caused the king to order Abram to be confined in prison for 10 days. At the end of those days, the king summoned the rulers, princes, governors, and sages from across his kingdom to decide Abram's fate. As they gathered, Nimrod addressed them. "Have you heard of this man? Abram, the son of Terah. What he's done? He defied his father, mocked our gods, and insulted me to my face without fear or hesitation. Now he sits in confinement. What judgment do you deem fit for such a man?" The council replied, "The man who reviles the king must be hanged. However, for his defiance of our gods and the deeds you have described, he must be burned to death, for this is the law." The council's verdict pleased the king, and he commanded his servants to prepare a fire in the great furnace of Kasdim, stoking it day and night for 3 days. As the fire roared, news of Abram's impending punishment spread across the land. Nearly 900,000 men, women, and children gathered to witness the event. People climbed on rooftops and towers for a better view, leaving no place in the city empty. When Abram was brought before the king and the crowd, the king's conjurers cried out, "Our sovereign lord, this man is no ordinary prisoner. He is the very child we warned you of 50 years ago. the one marked by the great star that swallowed 4 stars at his birth. And his father, Terah, deceived you, presenting another child in his place." Hearing this, the king's anger burned hotter than the furnace. He ordered Terah to be brought before him immediately. When Terah stood before the king, Nimrod demanded, "Have you heard the words of my sages? Now speak the truth. If you confess, you will be spared." Terrified by the king's wrath, Terah confessed, "It is true, my lord. I fear for my son's life and brought a child of the handmaid to satisfy your command." The king pressed him further. "Who advised you to do this? Speak, and you shall live." In his fear, Terah falsely accused Haran, his eldest son. "It was Haran who persuaded me, my lord." Though Haran had done no such thing, Terah sought to save his own life, even as the king declared, "Then Haran shall die alongside Abram for defying my orders." As Haran was seized and bound with Abram, he wrestled with his thoughts. Deep in his heart, he felt drawn to Abram's faith, yet he remained hesitant. He thought to himself, "If Abram prevails against the king, I will follow him. But if the king prevails, I will side with him." Haran's wavering heart would soon lead him to his fate. Abram and Haran were brought together to the furnace. The king's servants stripped them of their garments, leaving only their lower clothing, and bound their hands and feet with cords of linen. The crowd fell silent as the servants lifted Abram and Haran and casted them both into the roaring flames. Yah, who loved Abram, had compassion on him and descended to deliver him from the fire. The flames consumed the cords binding Abram, but he remained unharmed, walking freely within the furnace. However, Haran, whose heart was not perfect before Yah, was consumed and reduced to ashes. As the flames spread, 12 of the king's servants who had cast them into the fire were also consumed, perishing in the heat. For 3 days and 3 nights Abram walked in the midst of the fire, unharmed. Servants reported to the king, "We have seen Abram walking in the flames. His clothes remain intact, though the cords that bound him are burned." The king, skeptical, sent trusted princes to confirm the report. When they returned, they said, "It's true, my lord. Abram walks freely in the fire, while Haran's body has been reduced to ashes." Nimrod, trembling at the sight, approached the furnace himself. As he saw Abram unharmed and walking to and fro, a living testament to Yah's power. Nimrod, overcome with awe and fear, called out to Abram from a safe distance, "O servant of the God who is in heaven, come forth from the fire and appear before me." Hearing the king's words, Abram walked out of the flames, unharmed. The crowd watched in stunned silence as he approached the king, his lower garments unburned and his body untouched. Only the cords that had bound him were consumed by the fire. Nimrod, trembling, asked Abram, "How is it that you were not consumed by the fire?" Abram replied boldly, "The God of heaven and earth, in whom I trust, delivered me from the flames. He holds all power and has saved me from the fire into which you cast me." The remains of Haran, reduced to ashes, were sought but could not be restored. The flames had consumed him entirely, for his heart had not been wholly with Yah. The miraculous deliverance of Abram left the king, his princes, and all the inhabitants of the land in awe. They bowed down before Abram, but he rebuked them, saying, "Do not bow to me. Bow to the God of this world, who created you and delivered me from this fire. Serve him and walk in his ways, for it is he who has the power over all things." The people marveled at Abram's words, and Nimrod, though humbled, sought to appease Abram. He presented him with lavish gifts of silver, gold, and pearls. To further honor him, the king gave Abram 2 of his chief servants, Oni and Eliezer. With the king's gifts and honors, Abram departed from Nimrod's court in peace. Many of the king's servants, inspired by Abram's faith and the miraculous display of Yah's power, chose to follow him. Around 300 men joined Abram that day. Abram returned to his father Terah's house with those who followed him. From that day forward, he devoted his life to serving Yah and walking in his ways completely. Abram began teaching others about the one true living God, turning the hearts of men away from idolatry and towards Yah. In time, Abram and his brother Nahor married the daughters of their brother Haran. Abram took Sarai as his wife, and Nahor married Milcah. But Sarai was barren, and she had no children in those days. 2 years after Abram's miraculous deliverance, Nimrod had a troubling dream. In his vision, he stood with his troops in a valley near the furnace of Caspian. Suddenly, a man resembling Abram emerged from the furnace, holding a drawn sword. The man approached Nimrod and struck fear into his heart, causing him to flee. As Nimrod ran, the man hurled an egg at him, which became a great river that swallowed Nimrod's troops. Nimrod escaped with 3 others, but the river transformed back into an egg, and from this egg, a young bird emerged, flying at Nimrod, plucking out one of his eyes. Nimrod awoke in terror, deeply disturbed by the dream. The following morning, he summoned his wise men and magicians, recounting the visions to them. One of the king's wisest servants, Enoch, spoke. This dream foretells the rise of Abram and his descendants. They will oppose you, my lord, and in the latter days, they will overcome your kingdom and destroy your armies. Only you and 3 other kings will escape from the coming destruction. Enoch continued, the young bird that plucked out your eye signifies Abram's seed, which will rise against you and prevail. Enoch warned the king, it has been 52 years since the sages foretold that this Abram's birth. As long as Abram lives, neither you nor your kingdom will stand secure. My counsel is to find and kill him before it's too late. Nimrod heeded Enoch's advice and sent servants in secret to seize Abram and bring him to a place of execution. But Eliezer, Abram's loyal servant, overheard the plot and warned Abram, hasten and flee. The king seeks your life. Taking Eliezer's warning to heart, Abram fled to the house of Noah and Shem, where he found refuge. Nimrod's servants searched for Abram throughout the entire land, but they could not find him. Frustrated, they returned to the king, and Nimrod's anger subsided when Abram could not be located. Abram remained hidden in Noah's house for 1 month, but he was still wary of the king's wrath. During this time, his father Terah came to visit him in secret. Abram said to Terah, do you not see the king intends to destroy me? Let us leave this land together and go to Canaan, where we will be safe. The king's wealth and honors are but vanities, for they cannot save in the day of wrath. Serve Yah, the creator of all things, and cast away the idols of this land. Moved by Abram's words, Terah hesitated but ultimately heeded his son's counsel. Noah and Shem also encouraged Terah, saying, Abram speaks the truth. Follow him, for this is the will of Yah. Terah agreed, and he prepared to leave the land with Abram, ensuring the king would not find them. Terah obeyed Abram's counsel and gathered his family to leave Ur of the Chaldeans. He took Abram, Sarai, and Lot the son of Haran, along with all the souls of his household. Together they journeyed toward the land of Canaan. When they arrived in Haran, they found the land exceedingly good for pasture and decided to settle there. The fertile plains provided plenty of space for the flocks and herds that traveled with them. In Haran, the people saw that Abram was a good and upright man who walked faithfully with Yah. Recognizing that Yah was with him, many of the people of Haran joined Abram, seeking to learn from him. Abram taught them the ways of Yah, instructing them in righteousness and truth. Those who joined Abram remained in his household, adhering to his teachings and walking in the ways of Yah. 3 years have passed after Abram settled in Haran, and Yah appeared to him and said, I am the God who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans and delivered you from your enemies. If you will listen to my voice and keep my commandments, statutes, and laws, I will cause your enemies to fall before you. I will multiply your descendants like the stars of the heaven. I will bless the works of your hands and assure that you lack of nothing. Yah then commanded Abram, Arise now, take your wife and all that belong to you. Go into the land of Canaan. There I will be your God, and I will bless you. At Yah's command, Abram rose and took his wife Sarai, all their possessions, and all the souls who had joined them. He journeyed to the land of Canaan as Yah had instructed him. When he arrived in Canaan, Abram dwelt in the midst of the city, pitching his tent among the children of Canaan who inhabited the land. Yah appeared to Abram again when he reached Canaan, saying, This is the land I have given to you and your descendants forever. I will make your seed as numerous as the stars of heaven, and all the land you see will be their inheritance. In response, Abram built an altar at the place where Yah spoke to him and called upon the name of God. At the end of Abram's 3rd year in Canaan, news came that Noah, the righteous man who walked with Yah, had passed away. Noah lived 950 years, and his death marked the 58th year of Abram's life. Despite this loss, Abram remained in Canaan with his wife Sarai, those who accompanied him, and the people of the land who had joined his household. However, Terah, Nahor, and Lot and all of their households remained in Haran. In the 5th year of Abram's dwelling in Canaan, turmoil arose in the cities of the plain, including Sodom and Gomorrah. These cities had served Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, for 12 years, paying him yearly tribute. But in the 13th year, they rebelled, casting off his rule. This act of defiance set the stage for greater conflicts to come. After 5 years, a war broke out between Nimrod, the king of Shinar, and Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. Nimrod, angered by the rebellion of cities of the plain, gathered his forces 700,000 strong and marched against Kedorlaomer. Kedorlaomer, though outnumbered with only 5,000 men, met Nimrod's forces in the Valley of Babel. There a great battle ensued. Despite being vastly outnumbered, Kedorlaomer's forces inflicted a crushing defeat on Nimrod's army. 600,000 of Nimrod's men fell, including his son Mardon. Nimrod fled this battlefield in a disgrace, returning to Shinar under subjugation of Kedorlaomer. Kedorlaomer, now victorious, solidified his power by forming alliances with Arioch, king of Elasar, and Tidal, king of Goyim. In the 15th year of Abram's dwelling in Canaan, when he was 70 years old, Yah appeared to him again, saying, I am God who brought you out of Ur of Chaldeans, to give you this land as an inheritance. Walk before me and be perfect. To you and your descendants I will give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river of Euphrates. In peace you will join your fathers in a good old age, and your descendants will return here in their 4th generation to inherit this land forever. Abram built another altar to Yah and offered sacrifices calling upon his name. After receiving Yah's promise, Abram decided to visit his family in Haran. Taking Sarai and all those who followed with him, Abram returned to his father Terah's household. Abram stayed in Haran for 5 years, and during this time many of the people of Haran were drawn to him. 72 men joined Abram, eager to learn the instruction of Yah and to walk in his ways. While Abram dwelt in Haran, Yah appeared to him again, saying, Behold, I spoke to you 20 years ago, telling you to leave your land, your birthplace, and your father's house to go to the land I have shown you. Now arise, take your wife and all that belong to you, and every soul you have made in Haran, and return to the land of Canaan. There I will bless you, make you a great nation, and through you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Obeying Yah's command, Abram rose and gathered all that belonged to him. He took Sarai, Lot, and every soul who had joined his household in Haran. Together they set out for the land of Canaan. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran, faithfully following Yah's direction. Abram and his household arrived in Canaan and settled in the plains of Mamre. There he pitched his tent and began to dwell among the people of the land. Lot, his nephew, also settled nearby, bringing with him all his possessions and servants. Yah appeared to Abram once more, saying, To your descendants will I give this land, it will be their inheritance forever. Moved by Yah's promise, Abram built yet another altar in the plains of Mamre to honor Yah. There he offered sacrifices and called upon the name of Yah. As Abram lived among the Canaanites, his reputation for righteousness and faithfulness spread. Many were drawn to his household, seeking to follow his example and learn about the one true living God. Abram continued to teach those who came to him, leading them in the ways of Yah and turning their hearts away from idolatry. In the land of Shinar, there lived a wise man named Retelling. Though his wisdom was great and his appearance pleasing, he was poor and he struggled to sustain himself. Desperate to improve his luck, Retelling resolved to travel to Egypt to present himself before King Osiris, the son of Enoch, hoping to gain favor and support. When Retelling arrived in Egypt, he learned of their very unique custom. The king was only seen one public day each year, and on that day he would pass judgment and address the grievances of his people. Hearing this, Retelling was deeply grieved, for he could not gain the audience with the king until that appointed day. That evening, Retelling found shelter in the ruins of an old bakehouse, where he spent the night in hunger and sorrow. Sleep eluded him as he pondered how he might survive in the city. The next morning, Retelling observed vendors selling vegetables and seeds in the marketplace, and had decided to do the same. However, being unfamiliar with the customs of the Egyptians, he was mocked and ridiculed. The rabble stole his goods, leaving him with nothing. That night, Retelling returned to the ruins, discouraged and desperate. He resolved to devise a plan to save himself from starvation. The next morning, Retelling acted on ingenuity. With the rest of his money, he hired 30 strong men from among the city's poor and equipped them with weapons. Together they ascended to the top of the Egyptian graveyard. There, Retelling declared, Thus says the king, no man may be buried here unless a payment of 200 pieces of silver is made. The men enforced Retelling's command, and for an entire year they collected silver and gold from those who sought to bury their dead. Retelling's scheme prospered, and within 8 months he amassed great riches. Within his newfound wealth, he purchased horses and hired more men to serve under him, strengthening his position in the city. At the end of the year, on the day the king made his annual public appearance, the people of Egypt gathered before him to complain. They cried out, "May the king live forever! But what is this injustice that has been done in your land? The dead are denied burial unless a tax is paid? This has never been heard of in all of earth, not since the days of Adam. We cannot bear this any longer, for this city is in ruin because of this oppression." The king, unaware of Rikaon's actions, became enraged and demanded, "Who has done this wicked thing in my land without my command? Bring him before me at once." The people revealed all that Rikaon and his men had done, and the king ordered him to be brought before the court. Rikaon, however, acted with cunning. He prepared a lavish gift before the king, including silver, gold, precious stones, and a strong and beautiful horse. Additionally, he took 1,000 children, clothed them in fine silk and embroidery, and sent them to the king ahead of him. When Rikaon finally appeared, he bowed low before the king. His wealth and elaborate gifts amazed the king and the people, who marveled at his ingenuity. The king questioned Rikaon about his actions, and Rikaon spoke wisely, explaining his deeds with skill and eloquence. His words impressed the king, his servants, and all the people of Egypt. Recognizing Rikaon's wisdom, the king said, "Your name shall no longer be Rikaon. From this day forth you shall be called Pharaoh, for you have exalted a tax even from the dead." From that moment on, Rikaon, now Pharaoh, found favor in the eyes of the king, his court, and all the people of Egypt. The king and his subject loved Rikaon for his wisdom and decided to appoint him as prefect under the king. The wise man and the inhabitants of Egypt agreed, making it a law that every king of Egypt from that time onward would bear the title Pharaoh. Rikaon, the Pharaoh, ruled Egypt with skill and cunning. He administered justice daily, while King Osiris continued to judge the people only once a year on his appointed day. Rikaon used his cunning to secure power and influence, exacting a tax from all the inhabitants of Egypt. The people, enamored by his wisdom and leadership, supported all of his rule wholeheartedly. Thus, from the days of Rikaon, every king who ruled over Egypt was given the title Pharaoh, a tradition that endured through the generations. A heavy famine swept across the land of Canaan, so severe that its inhabitants could no longer remain. The scarcity of food forced Abram and his household to journey into Egypt in search of sustenance. Upon reaching the Brook of Egypt, they paused to rest from fatigue of their journey. As Abram and Sarai walked near the brook, Abram observed Sarai's exceptional beauty and grew concerned. He said to her, "Since God has created you with such beautiful countenance, I fear the Egyptians who do not fear Yah will kill me to take you. Say that you are my sister, so that it may go well with me and so that our lives may be spared." Abram instructed all who traveled with him, including Lot, to confirm that Sarai was his sister if asked by the Egyptians. Still anxious for Sarai's safety, Abram placed her in a chest and concealed it among their belongings. When they entered the gates of Egypt, they were stopped by the king's guards, who demanded a tithe from all their possessions. The guards noticed the chest and asked, "What's inside this chest? Open it and give a tithe to the king from its contents." Abram replied, "I will pay a tithe of whatever you demand, but this chest must remain unopened." The guards, suspecting great treasures, forced the chest open. To their astonishment, they found Sarai, whose beauty left them in awe. They immediately informed Pharaoh. The servants brought Sarai before Pharaoh, praising her beauty before the king. Upon seeing her, Pharaoh was struck by her beauty and greatly pleased. He ordered gifts be given to those who brought her and had Sarah taken into his household. Abram, distraught over his wife, prayed continuously to Yah for her deliverance. Sarai also prayed, saying, "O God, you commanded my husband to leave his land, promised to do well with us. Now we are strangers in a foreign land, and I have been taken into the Pharaoh's house. Deliver us, O Yah, for the sake of your mercy." Yah heard Sarai's prayer and sent an angel to deliver her. That night, as Pharaoh lay near Sarai, an angel appeared to her and said, "Do not fear, for Yah has heard your prayer." When Pharaoh approached Sarai, intending to touch her, an angel struck him heavy, causing him a great terror. Each time he tried to come near her, he was smitten to the ground. The angel also struck Pharaoh's servants and his household with plagues, causing great lamentation throughout the palace. Terrified by the plagues, Pharaoh spoke to Sarai, saying, "Surely this calamity has come upon me because of you. Tell me the truth about the man who has brought you here." Sarai answered, "He is my husband, but I told you he was my brother because I feared you would kill him to take me." Realizing the severity of his actions, Pharaoh refrained from touching Sarai and commanded that Abram be summoned. When Abram appeared before Pharaoh, the king said, "Why did you say she was your sister? I might have taken her as my wife, and this plague has come upon me and my household because of it. Take your wife and all that is yours and leave my land, lest we all die on her account." Pharaoh gave Abram more cattle, servants, and precious gifts. He also gave Sarai a handmaid, a maiden born to one of his concubines, saying, "It is better for my daughter to serve in your house than to remain here after what has happened." Escorted by Pharaoh's men, Abram and his household departed Egypt, returning unto Canaan. They came to the place where Abram had built his first altar and pitched their tent. Abram gave thanks unto Yah for delivering them. Over time, Abram and Lot's possessions grew so great that the land could no longer support them together. Their herdsmen would quarrel together, and the people of Canaan complained to Abram about Lot's herdsmen grazing their cattle in the fields that did not belong to them. Abram, weary of the dispute, said to Lot, "We are kinsmen. Let there be no quarrels between us. Separate from me, and choose a place to dwell with your household and cattle. Do not fear. If anyone harms you, I will avenge you." Lot looked upon the plains of Jordan and saw that it was well watered and fertile. He chose the plains and pitched his tent near the city of Sodom, separating from Abram. Meanwhile, Abram settled in the plains of Mamre near Haran, where he pitched his tent and remained for many years. Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, sent word to Nimrod, Tidal, and Arioch, forming an alliance to punish the 5 kings of the plains: Bera, king of Sodom; Bersha, king of Gomorrah; Shinab, king of Amah; Shimber, king of Zeboim; and Bela, king of Zor, for rebelling after 13 years of servitude. The 4 kings gathered their armies, amassing 800,000 men, and marched through the region, conquering and plundering as they went. The 5 kings of the plains would meet them in battle in the valley of Siddim. The battle was fierce, but the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah were overwhelmed. The valley, filled with lime pits, became a death trap. Many of the defeated forces fell into the pits, while the survivors fled into the mountains. The victorious kings plundered Sodom and Gomorrah, taking everything of value. Among the captives was Lot, Abram's nephew, along with all his possessions and family. When news of Lot's capture reached Abram through his servant Enoch, Abram gathered 318 trained men from his household. That very night they pursued the 4 kings. Abram and his men launched a surprise attack, defeating the kings and their 800,000 men. Only the 4 kings were able to escape with their lives, each fleeing to his own land. Abram recovered all the spoils of Sodom and Gomorrah, along with Lot, his family, and all their possessions. Lot lacked nothing upon his return. On Abram's return from battle, Bera, king of Sodom, and his surviving men emerged from the lime pits to meet him. At the same time, Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, who was Shem, came out to greet Abram in the valley of Melech. Adonizedek brought bread and wine and blessed Abram, saying, "Blessed be Abram, by God the Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be Yah Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand." In gratitude, Abram gave Adonizedek a tenth of all the spoils, for Adonizedek was a great priest before Yah. The kings of Sodom and Gomorrah approached Abram, pleading with him, "Return our people to us, but keep the spoils for yourself." Abram replied, "As Yah lives, the creator of heaven and earth, I will take nothing from you, not even a thread or a sandal strap, so that you cannot go and say, 'Abram became rich from our poverty.' Yah, in whom I trust, has blessed me and promised I will lack nothing. Let the men who fought with me take their portion, but I will accept nothing from you." Abram released the captives and returned the spoils, refusing to take anything from the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah. Back in Haran, Yah appeared to Abram and said, "Do not fear, Abram. Your reward is very great before me. I will not leave you until I have multiplied you and made your descendants as numerous as the stars of heaven. I will give your descendants this land as an eternal inheritance. Be strong and walk before me in perfection." Abram built another altar and worshiped Yah, holding firmly to his promises. As the years passed, Sarai remained barren. She grew desperate and said to Abram, "Yah has withheld children from me. Take my handmaid Hagar as your wife. Perhaps I can obtain children through her." In the 10th year of Abram's dwelling in Canaan, when he was 85 years old, Abram heeded Sarai's request and took Hagar as his wife. Hagar conceived, and her heart grew proud. She thought to herself, I must be better before Yah than Sarai, for she has borne Abram no children, but I have conceived quickly. Hagar's pride caused her to despise Sarai, and Sarai, seeing this, became jealous and said to Abram, This wrong is on you. When you prayed for children, why did you not pray for me? Now my maid despises me, and you do nothing to address it. May Yah judge between us. Abram responded, Your maid is in your hands. Do to her as you see fit. Sarai afflicted Hagar, and in her distress Hagar fled into the wilderness. There, by a well, an angel of Yah appeared to her, saying, Do not fear, Hagar. Return to your mistress and submit to her, for Yah will greatly multiply your descendants. You will bear a son and name him Ishmael, for Yah has heard your affliction. Hagar called the well Bir Lahaya, meaning the well of the living one who sees me. She returned to Abram's household and bore him a son, who Abram called Ishmael. When Ishmael was born, Abram was 86 years old. Though Ishmael was a source of joy, Sarai's barrenness remained a source of sorrow. Despite the challenges, Abram continued to trust in Yah's promises, walking faithfully as he awaited the fulfillment of Yah's covenant.